Exposed, my son's wife's heartwarming deception from my house revealed just 2 days before. Earl Anderson's heart raced as he clutched the flyer, the bold print glaring back at him like a challenge. A fundraiser for him, complete with cheerful graphics of smiling faces and colorful balloons, laid bare the intention behind Sarah's kindness. But as he read the words, they felt like a slap, a twisted reminder that he might lose the home he and his late wife had built together. His 62 years of pride and independence shuddered against the notion that his son's wife thought he needed charity. The summer festival buzzed to life outside, the scent of hot dogs and funnel cakes wafting through the open window. Earl could hear laughter, vibrant and carefree, mixing with the calls of friends greeting one another. Yet, here he sat in the solitude of his living room, the familiar walls closing in on him, filled with memories of love and warmth that felt sharper than ever. The pictures on the mantel captured moments he cherished, family birthdays, holiday feasts, and quiet evenings spent in each other's company. Each photograph was a reminder that he wanted his son, Luke, to inherit this legacy, not charity. Weeks had passed since Martha had taken her last breath. Each day brought waves of grief crashing down, reshaping the coastline of his heart. Bills piled up like unwanted guests, but this home, this sacred space, held countless moments of joy he was ready to let go of. Earl's mind raced with anger and confusion. Why would Sarah do this? Doesn't she know how strong I am? His own thoughts echoed with betrayal. Confronting Sarah felt like standing against a tidal wave of emotion, but he had to voice his hurt. So, on the eve of the festival, he threw open the door and stormed over to her house, fists clenched in resolve. "Sarah!" he shouted, the tightness in his chest rising to his throat. "You think I'm too weak to take care of myself? I can't believe you treat me this way." Luke's wife stood there, eyes wide with shock, her compassionate spirit suddenly cloaked in pain. "Earl, it's not like that at all. I thought what? That you'd rescue me because I can't do it myself? I've spent my life providing for my family." And in that moment, empowered pride turned festering wounds into a chasm tearing through their bond. Earl's heart hardened even as he felt it breaking for Sarah, who just wanted to be a part of a family that meant everything to her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the colorful parade began to snake through Cedarville, with its laughter and playful cheers, Earl found himself rooted on his porch. Neighbors waved at him, cheerful faces masking the turmoil inside. He could see Sarah and Luke in the crowd, their bodies alive with joy, but something in Earl felt swallowed up by the shadows of doubt and pride. Would he stand alone amidst all this love and support? Or would he let the walls he had built to protect himself come crumbling down? As he stood there, waiting for an answer that was as elusive as the summer wind, Earl realized he had to confront more than just the fundraiser. He needed to face the essence of family itself. Earl stood frozen, watching the festivities unfold before him. The vibrant colors of the parade seemed to mock his sorrow. He could hear the laughter of children, the distinctive thud of a drum, and the vibrant clapping of hands. But each sound felt like a distant echo, muffled by the weight of his own turmoil. He shook his head, resisting the urge to retreat back inside where it was safe, where he could bury himself in solitude and grief. Inside him, a voice whispered, "You've always taken care of yourself. Don't let her see you break." But another part of him yearned to reach out, to bridge the chasm forming between him and Sarah. He had watched her grow from a timid girl into a woman full of spirit and determination. She had joined their family as if it were her own, but now that bond felt strained. Suddenly, he turned and headed towards the festival, a twisting knot of emotions churning inside him. His feet carried him toward the throng of happy faces, his heart heavy with uncertainty. Would he find an answer out there, or just more reminders of what he'd lost? As he navigated through the cheerful crowd, he spotted Luke and Sarah sharing an ice cream cone, their laughter cutting through his heart like a serrated knife. Watching them felt like peering into a window of what could have been an alternate reality where he wasn't cloistered by his pride and resentment. The sight was both sweet and agonizing, and he couldn't tear his eyes away. "Earl." Luke's voice pierced through his thoughts. "Come on over." He waved, genuine warmth radiating from him. Earl hesitated, knowing confrontation was unavoidable, but he wanted to avoid making a scene in front of the festival-goers. So, he plastered on a smile, one he hoped looked sincere, and walked toward them. "Looks like you're having a good time," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Just sharing some ice cream," Sarah chimed in, her eyes sparkling, unaware of the storm brewing beneath Earl's calm exterior. "You should join us. It's a great way to celebrate the festival." Earl's heart sank. This isn't a celebration, it's just a distraction, he thought, but it died on his lips. Instead, he forced a chuckle. "I'm fine. Just came to see what's keeping everyone so busy." He glanced at Sarah, whose smile faltered at his words. The air between them thickened, the unsaid hanging palpably in the space. "Earl," Sarah finally said, "I didn't mean to upset you. I just thought. No, I wanted to help. We thought it was time for the community to support you. You don't have to go through this alone." The truth of her words stung. He saw her sincerity, felt the warmth of her intentions, but the pride that had become his armor tightened its grip. "Is that how you see me? A project? A charity case?" His voice trembled with anger and hurt. She took a step back, a flicker of hurt crossing her features. "No. That's not what I meant. I know you're strong. I wanted to show you that people care." "You wanted to show me? Or you wanted to prove that I need it?" Earl could see the pain welling in her eyes, a mixture of confusion and disappointment. He felt the walls he had carefully built begin to crack, exposing his vulnerability. In that moment, he faced a hard truth: his fight against help was also a fight against love. Suddenly, a child ran past, giggling with joy, the sound forcing Earl to rethink his anger and pride. Was he really so afraid of what it meant to accept help? "Earl," Luke interjected gently, placing a hand on his shoulder, "it's okay. Let us be here for you." The warmth of his son's touch made Earl's heart ache anew. Was it truly okay? Could he really let go of the burden he had carried alone for so long? As the parade moved on, laughter and music filling the air once more, Earl felt the weight of his pride begin to shift, just slightly. The question loomed larger than ever in his heart: could he let himself be loved? In that moment of tension, as the crowd surged around him, Earl felt the horizon of his choices stretch before him. What would he choose? And how would it change everything? With uncertainty hanging in the air, a decision loomed on the horizon, one that would either mend broken bonds or fracture them forever. Earl's heartbeat quickened as he stood there, caught between the laughter of the festival and the heavy silence of his own heart. He felt like a statue, powerless against the tide of emotion that surged through him. Was this truly his choice, to isolate himself when love was reaching out, trying to pull him back from the brink? As if sensing his turmoil, Sarah shifted closer, her eyes filled with compassion. "Earl, please. You're not alone in this." There was a sincerity in her voice that struck a deep chord within him. It pulled at the threads of his resolve, threatening to unravel the fortress he had built. That he looked at her, really looked, trying to see through the haze of his own pain. This was not some charity case. This was Sarah, someone who had held out her hand to him time and again. The agony of his past flashed before him, memories of loss and longing festering in the corners of his mind. But here was love, standing right in front of him. Earl exhaled, breathing out the fear that had gripped him for so long. "I don't want to be a burden," he murmured, more to himself than to them. The admission felt like pressing a heavy stone off his chest, revealing the vulnerability he had hidden for too long. Luke stepped forward, his hand still resting on Earl's shoulder. "It's not a burden, Dad. It's being a family. We share this, together." His words, simple yet powerful, echoed in Earl's ears. Together. The concept felt foreign yet intoxicating. His gaze shifted back to Sarah, who stood between them, a bridge over the chasm of his doubts. The weight in her gaze mirrored his uncertainty, but there was also hope. "You don't have to pretend with us," she urged softly. For a split second, Earl's resolve wavered. He wanted to respond, to say what lay buried in his heart, but the fear of what that might mean held him back. What if saying yes meant he would lose more? But then he thought about the joy swirling around them, the celebration of life, healing, and connection. What kind of life was this, hiding behind walls? What would it truly cost him to let others in? Maybe I could try," he finally said, the words tasting like uncharted territory on his tongue. As if a spell had been lifted, Sarah's face broke into a radiant smile that made his heart flutter. "That's all we're asking for," she said, a note of relief resonating in her voice. Earl felt a tiny spark ignite inside him, an ember of possibility. Luke, sensing the shift, squeezed Earl's shoulder. "Let's grab that ice cream. It's on me." The playful banter between them brought laughter in the shadow of Earl's uncertainty. As they walked together through the parade, surrounded by bright colors and joyous music, Earl felt lighter than he had in years. It was as if the burden he had carried for so long was lifting, piece by piece. The warmth from his family wrapped around him, igniting an unexpected warmth in his chest, yet, even as laughter filled the air, a nagging question lingered in his heart. Was it enough to simply try? Or would he ultimately let fear win again? Suddenly, the parade took a dramatic turn. A float designed like a phoenix glided by, flames painted in brilliant hues as it represented rebirth. Was that a sign? Earl's pulse quickened. Could he truly transform, just like that mythical creature? The decision to step out of his isolation would take more than just a moment. It would demand he embrace change, face the fears that loomed larger than life. With the music in his ears and his family by his side, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this festival could lead him to more than just moments of joy. It could guide him towards healing the wounds he thought would always be there. But even as he walked, another shadow loomed in his mind. What would he do when faced with the truth he had kept from them all? Earl's heart raced as he followed Sarah and Luke through the vibrant crowd. The colorful floats swirled around him, their laughter and music painting a scene filled with joy. Yet, beneath the surface, he felt like he was standing on the edge of a deep pool, preparing to dive into waters unknown. "Hey, what flavor do you want?" Luke called back to him, grinning as he pointed to the ice cream stand ahead, a tower of frosty delights. Earl blinked, momentarily lost in thought. Chocolate chip, I guess," he managed to say, his voice faint against the backdrop of the festival. "Good choice." Sarah chimed in, nudging him gently. "I'll have the rainbow sherbet." Her smile radiated warmth, and for a moment, the weight of his prior fears felt a little lighter. As they approached the stand, Earl watched as Luke dug into his pocket for some cash. He felt a pang of uncertainty. Would this small treat truly symbolize a shift in their dynamic? Snippets of old fears crept back in, whispering that he didn't deserve this kind of joy. But he shook them off, firming his resolve. "Let me pay," he said suddenly, surprising himself. The words came out before he could allow doubt to take hold. Luke paused, then nodded, relinquishing the task of buying the ice cream. It felt empowering in a strange way. Earl placed his order, and soon they were all gathered at a small table, licking away the heat that began to collect in the air. Laughter rang out as Luke jokingly whipped his spoon toward Sarah, splattering a bit of ice cream onto her nose. She laughed in return, her giggle bright and infectious. The little moment between them struck Earl deeper than he had anticipated. It was as if he were witnessing a glimpse of the family he had always longed for but kept at arm's length. The kind of laughter that warmed the heart and filled the home with a sense of belonging. But then, slowly, the laughter subsided, and the earlier conversation resurfaced in his mind. The notion of letting them into his world grew heavier. Earl's heart sank as the fear took root once more. What if they learned the truth about his past? Would they still stand by him? Would they walk away? "What's wrong, Dad?" Luke's voice cut through his thoughts, concern etched across his brow. Earl sighed heavily, feeling exposed, as if the bright summer sun had shone too brightly on him. "I'm just thinking about how much I've kept from you both," he admitted, his voice small. "How long can I pretend to be someone I'm not?" "Dad," Sarah began, leaning closer, her eyes full of understanding, "you don't have to carry this alone. We want to know you, the real you." Earl looked at their eager faces, and suddenly, the weight he had borne for so many years felt unbearable. He swallowed hard, the lump in his throat a physical manifestation of the truth he had been postponing to share. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a sudden noise cut through the air. An explosion of fireworks lit the sky above them, sparkling in a dazzling array of colors. The crowd gasped in delight, heads tilted back in awe as if they could forget the troubles of the world for just a moment. Earl's heart raced quicker now, not just from the surprise above, but also the realization that he had a decision to make. This could be his moment, not just to embrace the festival, but to step into the light of the life he truly desired. "Maybe it's time I really showed you," he said slowly, each word deliberate, measured. "Everything." And with that promise trembling in the air, he felt the edges of his resolve beginning to crack, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. But deep in his mind loomed an echo of doubt: what if they didn't like what they discovered? The fireworks continued, but it was the internal battle that lit up his heart. Tomorrow awaited with its revelations. Would he find courage or slip back into the shadows? Earl stood there, his heart caught in a whirlwind of emotion, the brilliant colors of the fireworks casting fleeting shadows across his face. The laughter and excitement around him felt like a backdrop to his inner turmoil. He watched as Sarah and Luke pointed at the sky, their eyes wide with wonder, but inside, Earl wrestled with a churning sea of fear and hope. "Dad!" Luke's voice brought him back to the moment. "Look at that one." He pointed to a firework that crackled and shimmered like 1,000 stars bursting all at once. Earl felt a pull towards this joyous scene, but the knot in his gut was hard to ignore. "Yeah, it's amazing," Earl replied, forcing a smile. But his mind was elsewhere, spiraling deeper into thought about revealing the truth. The very idea of unraveling his past sent a chill down his spine, but watching his children's joy ignited a flicker of courage within him. What would it be like if he let down those walls? They loved him for the person he pretended to be, but would they love him for the real him? Memories flashed through his mind: sleepless nights, hard lessons, the choices that had led him to this moment. Was it worth risking what they had for the sake of honesty? The fireworks continued to burst overhead, their sounds echoing like the rapid beat of Earl's heart. He turned to Sarah and Luke, who were still engrossed in the spectacle above them, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside their father. As the final firework exploded into a thunderous finale, it seemed to rattle something loose in him. Earl inhaled deeply. "Okay, tomorrow I'll tell you everything," he said softly, though doubt still wrapped itself around his mind like a vine choking a tree. The freedom he sought was a step away, yet the fear of losing their love held him back. "Promise?" Sarah asked, her gaze still fixed on the vibrant sky. It was a simple question, but it felt like a contract written in air, a fleeting moment that could hold infinite weight. "I promise," Earl replied, the words slipping past his lips as if they'd been waiting for this moment to escape. A long silence fell as the last smoke trails drifted into oblivion. Luke and Sarah exchanged glances, sensing the shift in their father's demeanor. "What is going on?" Luke asked, genuine concern tinging his voice. Earl caught their gaze, so full of trust and anticipation. He felt the chasm within him deepen. This was the moment he wanted, yet the fear of vulnerability loomed larger than ever. He hesitated, unsure of how to continue. But suddenly, it was as if a rush of energy surged through him. Change was beckoning him, and every heartbeat urged him to leap. "I need to be brave. For you both." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise. Sarah and Luke nodded, their faces a reflection of determination and love. Earl could see they wanted to be there for him, to understand. "All right, then," Luke said, tilting his head with a playful smile. "Just remember, before you drop any mind-blowing secrets, you owe us a round of ice cream first." Earl chuckled at that, grateful for the lightness among the weight. "You got it, buddy. That's a deal." As the trio began to walk away from the chaos of the festival, Earl felt a small spark of hope. Maybe tomorrow would be the start of something new, a shift that shattered the silence of years gone by, but in the shadows of his determination, a gnawing thought surfaced: what hidden truths were buried so deep, and how would they change everything? As they stepped into the night, the excitement of the ice cream stand faded in contrast to what awaited them in the light of dawn. Tomorrow loomed ahead, with revelations ready to unfold. What new challenges would emerge when he finally unveiled the man he had hidden for so long? Earl woke up earlier than usual, the dawn light creeping through the curtains, illuminating the room in gentle hues of gold and pink. His heart felt heavy, as if the weight of his promise pressed down on him, anchoring him to the bed. He thought about the conversation of the night before, how simple it had been to say he would share his truth, yet how monumental it felt now that he glanced at the clock. It was barely past 6. He could hear the soft murmurs of Sarah and Luke as they stirred in their rooms, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in their father's heart. Earl swung his legs over the side of the bed, feeling the coolness of the wooden floor beneath his feet. He took a deep breath. It was time. After a quick shower, he felt a bit more like himself. He stood in front of the mirror and practiced the words that had been swirling in his mind. "Kids, I need to tell you something important." Each time felt unbearably heavy, as if the truth itself had weight. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. "Just be honest," he whispered to his reflection before heading into the kitchen. He prepared pancakes, hoping the familiar smell would bring comfort. As the batter sizzled on the griddle, he could hear the laughter of his children drifting closer. Soon, they joined him at the table, their faces still sleepy but brightening with the scent of breakfast. "Morning, Dad!" Luke exclaimed, grabbing a stack of pancakes. "Didn't he think you'd be up this early?" "Yeah, what's the occasion?" Sarah asked, smirking as she reached for the syrup. Earl hesitated, the sweet smell of syrup thick in the air, reminding him how much he cherished these moments, the small, seemingly insignificant details of family life that painted their days with joy. But today wasn't just any day. Today, he would peel back layers that had long shielded his heart. "Guys, I need to talk to you after breakfast," he said, forcing the words out, even when his gut churned with uncertainty. Both of his children paused mid-bite, exchanging wary glances. Luke chewed slowly, while Sarah leaned forward. "Is everything okay?" Earl swallowed hard, every muscle in his body tensing. He nodded, but the knot in his stomach tightened. "Yeah, everything is fine. Just something I need to share." As the meal progressed, laughter filled the kitchen, but Earl felt so disconnected from the joy around him. His mind was focused ahead, on the moment when the laughter would falter, and the air would grow thick with revelations. After breakfast, Sarah and Luke followed him into the living room, their expressions a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Dad, you're kind of freaking us out. What's wrong?" Sarah asked, crossing her arms. Earl took a seat, feeling the weight of their eyes on him. He opened his mouth, struggling to find the right words, but they seemed to slip away like smoke. "There's something you don't know about me. About our family." "What do you mean?" Luke asked, his brow furrowing. Earl put his hands on his knees. He could feel the pounding of his heart echoing in his ears. "It's about my past, about why I am the way I am." He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "There are things I've kept hidden, mistakes, things I never wanted you to carry." Sarah's eyes widened. "Dad, just tell us. Whatever it is, we can handle it." The room fell silent, the warmth of their familial bond thickening the air. Earl took one last breath, wanting to hold on to this moment, yet knowing he needed to step into the light of vulnerability. "What if I told you that I'm not the man you think I am?" His voice trailed off, but he could feel the gravity of his words hanging between them. Would the truth break them apart, or could they, together, navigate the cracks in each other's hearts? As they leaned closer, he recognized that their eyes were full of concern, love, and an unshakable belief in him. But as he opened his mouth to continue, something in his gut twisted again. Was he really ready for this? With the weight of their gazes urging him on, he realized he stood at the edge of something far more profound than he'd anticipated, an unknown path calling him forward. What awaited them on this journey? And more importantly, would they emerge whole or fragmented on the other side of this revelation? Earl took another deep breath, trying to gather the fragments of his courage. What I mean is, I wasn't always the man you know as your dad. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Sarah's brow furrowed even deeper, and Luke's eyes widened as he leaned forward, eager and anxious at once. What do you mean? Luke asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Before I met your mom, I made choices that I'm not proud of. I hurt people. I lost my way. Earl fought to maintain eye contact, though their growing confusion made each second feel like an eternity. Sarah shook her head. You. But you're always there for us. How can this be true? I know how it sounds, but I had a different life. I ran from my past. I thought if I left it behind, it would stay behind. He rubbed his palms against the fabric of his jeans, wishing he could rub away the uncomfortable truth that he was revealing. Did you do something bad? Luke's innocence was both gut-wrenching and beautiful. It reminded Earl of the boy he used to be, carefree and without the burdens of adulthood. Yes, he replied, his voice cracking. I made mistakes that affected others, still haunt me even today. It's part of who I am, and I don't want to keep it from you anymore. Silence enveloped the room like an unwelcome guest. Earl could hear his heart pounding, a persistent reminder of the stakes. But why now? Why tell us this? Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. I want to be honest with you. I don't want to carry this weight alone. You both deserve to know who I am and what I've struggled with. Luke looked down, his fingers nervously fidgeting with the hem of his shirt. Sarah remained strong, though Earl could see the hurt flash across her face. What have you done, Dad? Sarah asked quietly, almost as if she could barely wrap her mind around the implications of his words. Earl paused, feeling the hesitation in the air. He knew he couldn't wade through this without diving deep. I hurt someone. I was involved in things that put me in some dark places. I can't change my past, but I can change how I live today, how I try to be a better man for you. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. But we've always thought you were our hero. Heroes can be flawed, too. I need you to understand that. Sometimes the strongest people you know are those who recognize their weaknesses and face them head-on. I'm trying to do that. The room fell into a heavier silence, the weight of his confession crashing down on them. Earl saw the clenched fists and the tears that threatened to fall, and a piece of his heart broke for them. And what if we can't forgive you? Luke finally whispered, the question hanging like a pendulum, swinging between anger and despair. Earl closed his eyes, feeling the flood of emotions washing over him. I understand if it's too much. But just know, your feelings matter. I did this not to hurt you, but to finally be free from my past and the lies I've held on to. Sarah wiped her eyes, taking a deep breath. I don't know what to say right now. Earl nodded, feeling the chasm between them. You don't have to have all the answers. Just know I'm here to listen, to help, and to change. As he said the words, something inside him flickered a tiny spark of hope that perhaps they would find a way through this darkness together. But before he could say more, the doorbell rang, echoing through the tense silence. Was it someone coming to disrupt this moment, or was it a change that might guide them toward healing? Earl glanced at his children, their faces a mix of uncertainty and anxiety. Just as he opened his mouth to suggest they take a break, he realized that they had a choice to make. What lay on the other side of that door? Would it bring answers or complications they weren't ready for? Earl's heart raced as the doorbell rang again, urgency echoing in the silence that filled the room. He glanced at Sarah and Luke, both expressions a mix of hope and fear. It felt like a whirlpool of emotions, drawing them into an unknown. "Do you want me to get it?" Luke asked, standing up hesitantly. "No," Earl replied, shaking his head slightly. "I'll answer it." He could sense the tension in his voice, but he couldn't let them see how anxious he was. He needed to be strong, even if only a facade for now. As he walked toward the door, each step felt heavier than the last. He racked his brain trying to anticipate who could be standing outside. Was it a friend? A neighbor? Did someone hear the weight of their conversation? When he opened the door, the last person he expected stood there. It was Emily, his late brother's wife, clutching a handful of groceries. She wore a bright smile that abruptly faded as she processed the tension behind Earl's eyes. "Hey, Earl. I just thought I'd drop by, bring a little something," she said cheerfully, holding up the groceries. But then she noticed his slate-gray face. "Is everything all right?" Her innocent question peeled back a layer of the suffocating silence, and Earl felt the urge to spill everything, to share his truth with her as well. Instead, he glanced back at his children, still seated on the couch, their eyes locked on him. "Yeah, come in," he gestured weakly, stepping aside. Emily entered, her presence contrasting with the heaviness in the air. "Wow, it smells great in here. What are you cooking?" she asked brightly, but Luke spoke up before Earl could respond. "Not much," he mumbled, his voice barely audible. The room felt awkward as Emily placed the bags down, her cheerful demeanor struggling to break through the thick atmosphere. She glanced at each of them, trying to find a way to lift the clouds. "You know, I brought some vegetables and herbs to make a soup. I thought it'd be a nice meal for you all," she said, stirring some life back into the room with her enthusiasm. "Soup always helps during tough talks, right?" The comment landed heavy, a perfect encapsulation of their current predicament. Earl felt his children shift, emotions swirling. "Emily, it's been a difficult day," he admitted, steeling himself for what might come next. "We've been having a family conversation." "Oh. I'm so sorry to intrude," she responded, her tone shifting. "I can come back later." "No," Sarah spoke up suddenly, surprising them all. "Stay. We could use a distraction or maybe a friend." Earl's heart soared at her acceptance, though he could still feel the tension between them. Emily's warmth radiated in the coldness of their shared secret. "All right," she said, her grin returning. "Let's make this soup together." "Sounds good." They reluctantly nodded, and as the conversation shifted towards chopping vegetables and reminiscing about simple recipes, Earl watched his children. For the first time today, a hint of lightness flickered in their eyes. He joined them in the kitchen, the space bustling around chopping boards and laughter, but a weight still pressed on him. How long could they keep the door open to healing when the truth remained partially buried? As they stirred the pot and tossed in fresh herbs, the chaos of their hidden sorrows mingled with the savory aromas filling the air. Earl felt a shift. But deep within him, he knew this fragile moment couldn't last. What lay ahead would require even more honesty, even more courage. Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the counter, a reminder of unfinished business. Who could it be? What would they still have to confront? He picked it up, his heart racing once more. Was this the distraction they needed or the revelation that could reshape everything? Earl stared at his phone, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. A mix of dread and curiosity washed over him. He almost let it go to voicemail, but then he remembered the heaviness in the air, the truth lurking just out of their reach. Maybe this call could help, or he shook his head, banishing the thought. There was no more time for denial. "Who is it?" Emily asked, breaking his trance as she carefully diced the vegetables. "Just a second," Earl said, trying to sound casual as he pressed the phone to his ear. "Hello." A familiar voice flooded through with urgency. "Earl. It's Mike. We need to talk." His heart plummeted. Mike was his brother's best friend, a man who had carried the echo of Earl's past with him. Now isn't really a good time? Earl started, glancing at Sarah and Luke, who were watching him with wide eyes. I know, but it's important. You have to hear this, Mike urged. It's about your brother. There are things you don't know, things you need to know. Earl's stomach twisted. Can't it wait? No. Meet me at our spot. Please, Mike persisted, his voice low. It was a plea wrapped in urgency, a signal to a family secret that had been hidden for too long. With a deep breath, Earl glanced at his children. They stood still, hoping, waiting. Fine, he said reluctantly. I'll be there. He hung up, feeling the knot tighten in his chest. Emily noticed, her smile fading as she met his eyes. What is it? I have to go meet someone. It's important, he said, trying to maintain his composure. Is it about what you were discussing earlier? Luke interjected, a hint of rebellion in his voice. Earl felt a wave of reassurance and concern wash over him. They were right to question him, but how could he open up when he was still grappling with his own emotions? It's complicated. Dad, Sarah spoke softly. Can't you just tell us what is going on? All the weight of truth pressed down on him. In that moment, he felt the walls of the kitchen closing in, filled with laughter just moments ago but now eerily quiet. I need the truth, too. It's why I have to go. His words were honest and raw, cutting through the silence like the knife Emily had been using. Don't go. Just talk to us. Luke shouted, frustration leaking into his voice. Earl opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Emily stepped in, her tone firm yet gentle. We can face this together. You're not alone in this. Her kindness momentarily softened the looming dread, and he turned to her, seeing more than just a distraction. She was genuinely concerned. With a heavy sigh, Earl knew he had a decision to make. I'll be back soon. I promise we'll talk, all of us. He stormed out of the house, the air hitting his face like a splash of cold water. Each step felt like dragging his emotions to the surface. On his way to the meeting place, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Mike had to say could shatter their fragile peace. The distant sound of laughter from his home mixed with his thoughts, pulling him back to the warmth he had just left. Would knowing the truth bring more pain or finally release the burdens they all carried? Arriving at the spot, a small park with a worn bench, Earl saw Mike waiting, his face inscrutable. As they locked eyes, Earl felt the gravity of the moment. Earl, Mike began, his gaze serious. You have no idea what really happened. Those words hung between them, filled with implication. Earl felt a chill run down his spine. What could Mike possibly reveal that would change everything? And would they be able to handle it? Curiosity and dread collided within him, creating a storm that threatened to break free. What truth awaited him, and more importantly, what would it mean for his family? Earl sat down on the worn park bench, the wood creaking under his weight. Mike's expression was grim, a far cry from the laughter that spilled from his home just minutes ago. The tension in the air was palpable, like an impending storm. Earl swallowed hard, trying to gather the courage to face whatever was coming. Earl, Mike said, his voice low, this isn't easy. But you need to know the truth about your brother and about your past. Earl's heart raced, pounding in his chest like a drum. What could be so crucial? Just tell me, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. Before he died, he wasn't just keeping secrets from you. He was protecting you and keeping you away from something far darker than you ever realized. Each word felt heavy, like stones dropping into a well. What do you mean? Earl demanded, confusion blending with fear. Your brother, he got mixed up with some bad people. Things escalated. He wanted to shield you from it. He thought you could have the normal life you deserved, Mike explained, his eyes narrowing as he continued. But it's more than that. There is something he left unfinished. Something dangerous still lurking because of the choices he made. Earl's mind spun, grappling with the possibility that his brother's past was a ghost haunting his present. What are you saying? He pressed, anguish twisting his gut. He made enemies. Those people are still out there, and they might come looking for you. You need to be careful. The revelation struck Earl like a thunderbolt. The burden from long ago that he thought had passed, the dark weight of shame, had never truly lifted. All these years he had buried his own demons, believing that keeping his family safe was enough. Why are you just telling me this now? He asked, his voice cracking with desperation. Because it's time to confront it. You've started to build a life, a family. You can't run from your past any longer, Mike said, his voice earnest. You have to face it to protect them. The flood of emotions, fear, anger, guilt crashed over him, leaving him gasping for breath. What did this mean for Sarah and Luke? Would they still see him as the man he had tried so hard to be? The protector? The provider? Or would they see a man defined by the shadows of a life he thought had been left behind? Earl, please don't shut down now. You need to talk to your kids. They deserve to know the truth, Mike urged, his expression softening. You have a chance to break this cycle. Don't let your brother's mistakes silence you anymore. Earl nodded slowly, the weight of determination sparking in him. He needed to go back. He needed to face his family with the truth, not just for him, but for them. He had spent too long walling himself off, afraid to break the illusion of the perfect father figure. They deserved honesty and love, real love. As he walked back towards home, Earl felt a shift in the air. Each step felt like a step into a new beginning, a path toward healing. He would face whatever it was inside him that had kept him bound, and he would do it together with the ones he loved. When he reached home, laughter still echoed from within. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. Emily looked up first, a warm smile on her face. How did it go? She asked as she stirred the simmering soup. Not yet, he said, holding up a hand. But I need to tell you all something important. Luke and Sarah exchanged glances. They could feel the shift in the atmosphere, the weight of significance pressing down on the moment. Things are going to change, Earl began, his voice trembling. I want you to understand who I am, who I've been. And why it's important to confront our truths together. Sarah and Luke's eyes widened, and Emily's smile faltered as the reality of Earl's words settled among them. I've hidden parts of my past from you. Things I should have shared. Things that could still affect us. But this is the moment I want to change, for us. Silence enveloped them like a warm blanket, filled with unspoken questions and heavy hearts. Earl looked at their wide eyes, their trust palpable and ever fragile. I will not hide anymore. I promise to share my burdens, too. When I say we're a family, I mean we carry each other's truths. And I want to know yours, he continued, a flame of newfound courage fueling his resolve. Tears glimmered in Sarah's eyes, and Luke shifted forward, a mixture of concern and determination etched across his young face. We're here for you, Dad, he said quietly. No matter what. Earl felt a crack in the foundation of fear that had held him hostage for too long. With his family gathered around him, he realized it was finally time to lay the past to rest and embrace the future they could build together. Let us talk, Earl said, his voice breaking slightly, but filled with hope. Each word felt like a promise. Together, they could confront the darkness and emerge into the light, stronger and more connected than ever before. As the savory aroma of soup mingled with laughter in the kitchen, Earl took their hands, his heart swelling with determination. At that moment, he knew no fear, only love, acceptance, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. It was time to let go of the shadows and step fully into the light of family. And as he looked around at the faces he cherished, Earl felt a surge of gratitude. It was the beginning of their journey, a journey of truth and healing, and it was just starting to unfold. If you felt a connection to this story, a tug at your heart, now is your moment to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love for these journeys. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to make a difference.